up guys, it's Griffin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, I am covering another unsolved true crime case. Today's case is about a man named TAPIWA Matui. Before we get really into the depths of the actual case itself, I do like to cover kind of who each person is as a human being. So for reference, throughout this video, I will be referring to TAPIWA as Tapi just because that's normally what all of his friends and family would be calling him. So in this video in particular, I was actually able to speak to Tapi's cousin, and I was able to ask Tapi's cousin a few different questions and she sent me a few different answers back, and I kind of wanted to go over some of that before we got into the actual case because this gives us like an insight as to what Tapi is like as a person. The first question right off the bat that I asked her was, what is Tapi like as a person? And she said, word for word, he's very kind, generous, and just super energetic. He loves to have fun. And you guys will be able to tell throughout this entire thing that that is definitely a theme and that's definitely accurately representing him. He always was a super energetic person, always having a great time, and liked to hang out with his friends. Another thing about Tapi is he was absolutely in love with making music. He wanted to be a star. So Tapi is 21 and he is from Swansea, Wales. He's 5'11" to 6 feet tall. I don't know exactly how tall he is. Some sources say he's 5'6", while others say he's 5'11", and that's what was on the family approved missing persons poster, 5'11". His hair was bleached blonde with orange at the top fading to a darker black as it went to the base of his head. He had a degree in IT which he had acquired less than a year before his disappearance from the University of Wales. And I tried looking for it, but I couldn't really find if he had a source of work or income during his time other than making music. And at the time of his disappearance, he lived with his 10-year-old little sister and his parents. So like I had mentioned earlier from information that I had gotten from his cousin, everyone had kind of described him as an upbeat, extremely chipper, always happy, super energetic person. And one thing that fits across the board is that he always had a positive outlook on everything. And in addition to all of this, he was extremely passionate about music, more specifically rapping and hip hop. His passion for music led him to be in a musical duo named Mac and King, short for Macintosh and Young King, which were both of the boys' solo names. The title Young King belonged to Tapi, and he actually has songs on Spotify and SoundCloud both under his solo and duo names. As you guys can tell, music was a huge part of his life, and that's what truly inspired him. Not only was he extremely talented, but he was also super motivated to just pave his way in music. His Facebook bio actually reads, "Star in the making." Now that we have a little bit of history on him and his life, our story begins Wednesday, February 6th of 2019. Tapi went on a night out with some friends in Swansea, Wales, and was never seen again. Tapi did inform his parents that he was going out that night with his friends, and while it wasn't unusual for him to be going out, they just asked that he inform them of when he made it places or when he was headed home. And although his parents didn't ask that of him all the time, this is something that he didn't mind doing, and he was totally willing and open to doing this night. It was really unlikely for him to not keep them updated, and additionally, it was even more unlikely for him not to show up back home. Tapi and his friends were club hopping and ended up at Fiction nightclub around 4 a.m. on the 7th, which was Thursday now. And after that, they left to head to a McDonald's. Tapi and one of his friends arrived at McDonald's in Castle Square shortly after leaving the nightclub, so it was sometime between 4 and 5 a.m. Let's take a look at the CCTV footage and what Tapi is up to. As you can see, he's wearing a black hat with a red logo on it. The red Justin Bieber purpose tour jacket that says JB on the front and Bieber on the back in white. Underneath the jacket, he was wearing a white hoodie with a graphic design on it, dark blue ripped jeans, and black high top sneakers. And his friend is seen in a blue shirt, black pants, and black high top sneakers. One thing that a lot of people seem to point out from this CCTV footage is that Tapi seems intoxicated. He seemed to be stumbling around a little bit and loitering around McDonald's with his friend. Personally, in my opinion though, this is something that you would kind of expect on a night out. Even if I had just had like 2 or 3 shots and I'm at McDonald's with my friend, it's the end of the night and we're gonna head home after this, like I'm just like having a good time. It's like the end of the night, it's our last call, it's at McDonald's. I just don't even think that that's something to look into that much, because in my opinion, looking at the footage, while he does seem to have had a few drinks, it doesn't seem that he's completely blacked out or that intoxicated. And here's where this night turns really interesting. Tapi leaves McDonald's alone, and the footage shown of him leaving the McDonald's shows him running. And then he just starts walking. Like, he runs out of the McDonald's and then just starts walking. I don't know why he ran. I don't know what, like, the reason was why his friend didn't go with him or what was going on like that. I did talk to his cousin, and his cousin relayed the information to me that he was heading home and his friend was about to be heading home. So they just kind of went their separate ways. The CCTV footage, maybe he was just trying to get out of there quickly. I don't know, but it just seemed a little interesting to see him maybe not necessarily run, but move rather quickly getting out of this McDonald's. While he's walking, the footage shows him headed towards Caesar Street around 5 a.m. And the CCTV footage picks up again at 5:10 a.m. at the St. David's Student Accommodations Office on New Cut Road, where he seemingly enters and immediately leaves. And I did ask his cousin what he could have possibly been doing there that night, and she told me that's where some of his friends live, so maybe he was trying to still hang out for the night, or maybe he was trying to crash it at one of their places. But what is seen on the CCTV footage just seems so interesting to me, because to me it looks like he enters the building. It appears that there's someone else inside the building who is essentially kicking him out, and then he leaves kind of just like stumbling out the door. CCTV footage for that part really did seem quite interesting to me. I'm curious as to what you guys think about that, or if you guys have any comments on that, definitely let me know. But I do know for a fact that's where some of his friends were living, so maybe he was trying to crash for the night, or maybe he was trying to continue hanging out with a few friends. He then turns around and continues on the direction that he was coming from. Around 20 minutes later, he is found again on CCTV footage stumbling along Sainsbury, where he appears to still be alone. 2 more hours go by, no one's seen him, no one's heard from him, and no CCTV footage has picked him up. Then, just like that, there's one final sighting of Toppy around 7 a.m. at the Swansea Yacht Club, where he is passing through what appears to be an alleyway behind the yacht club. His last activity on his phone was on WhatsApp around 5 a.m. and he was last seen at 7 a.m. on CCTV footage by the yacht club. And in addition to that, he had never used his debit or credit card again since that morning. His family had an instinct that something was wrong, but they really knew something was wrong when he wasn't home to greet his little sister from school the next day. Around 24 hours since he was last seen, his parents went and reported him missing, and a search quickly went underway. That's when the police gathered all the CCTV footage from the night that they could find of Toppy, and that's kind of how we know what he was up to throughout the night. Police did come forward and say most of the people on CCTV footage at the McDonald's were interviewed and have since been cleared from anything having to do with this situation. After identifying and interviewing all of these people, including the person that Toppy was with, no new leads have come forward. And while the CCTV footage did help put together a timeline, it hasn't brought the investigation any closer to finding him. The footage was publicly released in March of 2019, along with a statement that read, "We are releasing this footage in case it helps jog anyone's memory from that morning," in hopes of someone coming forward and maybe seeing him and not realizing that they saw him until this moment. And Toppy's family insists that he would never just up and run away from home. The 2 months following his disappearance, his friends and family really kicked into gear and did absolutely everything in their power to try to bring Toppy home, as well as raise awareness in the community for his case. Not only did they manually search, but they also put up over 10,000 missing persons posters in the area that he was last seen in, and they handed out more posters on top of the 10,000 that they even just put up. They held a concert to raise money and publicity. His parents spent hours on end walking around and talking to anyone that would listen. Despite all of this, absolutely nothing came about. His dad has publicly stated that he's confused as to how no one saw anything, because it's a rather popular public area. Especially around that time, like 7 in the morning, there would probably be someone walking their dog or heading to work or something like that. So how did no one see anything? As all of these holidays pass, like Christmas and birthdays and New Year's, all their family wants is to be able to bring Toppy home, and obviously this is hurting them so much. This is someone that his little sister looked up to and was so close to, and despite all of their best efforts, they have not been able to come up with anything. So now I kind of want to take a look at Google Earth, where he was with the CCTV footage, and kind of put together a little timeline. So I'm going to go into a little voiceover and some clips of Google Earth and whatnot. So I will see you guys in a sec. So as I had mentioned in the beginning of the video, our timeline begins as soon as he leaves Fiction nightclub on Little Wynn Street. One thing that you'll notice is that every area that he was in is a very common and populated area. But like I said, he left Fiction nightclub and arrived at McDonald's in Castle Square shortly after leaving, and that was sometime between 4 and 5 a.m. arriving at another populated area where Toppy seems to end up leaving by himself around 5 a.m. The next sighting is at the St. David's Student Accommodation Center, which should take about 11 minutes to walk there, and he was seen there about 10 minutes after leaving McDonald's. Quickly after arriving at the Student Accommodation Center, which I did want to add, I am not sure which entrance he used, but quickly after arriving, he did leave and started heading towards Sainsbury, where he appeared 20 minutes later on CCTV footage. Maybe he was leisurely walking, however, that walk should have taken about 7 minutes and it took him 20. Now this is where we have a huge gap in CCTV footage. 2 hours goes by and nothing is seen anywhere. However, the next location that he is seen is about a 7-minute walk away again. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that taking 2 hours to get somewhere that's supposed to take 7 minutes is a lot of time lost. So what took him so long? The fact that it was 2 hours and such a short distance with no CCTV footage picked up at all in between makes people wonder if that was even Toppy at all. Now it's time to get into the theories. The most widely believed theory is that Toppy fell into the marina near the yacht club and washed away into the ocean or the river. The reason people are so keen to believing this one is because there is no guard or railing really alongside the marina, and they believe that he was visibly intoxicated on CCTV footage around 4 a.m. While this does seem to make sense, 3 hours is a good enough time to kind of sober up a little bit, so the intoxication aspect of it, he could have still been intoxicated, but it just seemed kind of like he would have maybe sobered up a little bit by then. But then there also goes to be no railing alongside him while he is walking along the marina. And while this theory is most definitely possible, there would be several conditions that would just have to be perfect in order for them to have never found a body. Before I get further into this explanation, I found a video on YouTube of the lock gates and how they work. Especially after watching this, I'm like baffled. You can clearly see with the lock gates there's no way in or out unless that's opened, and there are people observing it and opening and shutting it themselves every single time it's open and shut. However, the weir is a constant flowing thing. There is an orange buoy system that is put in place to stop anything from going into the ocean, and maybe all the right things lined up at all the exact right times just for him to have accidentally fallen in and get pushed out to sea. But the only other thing to point out, other people have gone missing in this area in similar conditions, and this theory is actually like what happened to them, but their bodies were found, and we have just not been able to come up with anything with Toppy. Another possible theory is drugs. Some people believe that while he wasn't selling on or doing anything in regards to drugs, that maybe he came across a situation he wasn't supposed to see. Another theory is human trafficking, and this one is pretty much a theory just because of the lack of evidence. As you guys know, we have very little information on his case, and that does tend to be common in a lot of human trafficking cases. And the final theory is foul play or an accident that was covered up. I never rule out any possible theory. I like to go into all the theories. There's always a chance that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, an accident happened, and as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, they never searched all the boats in the marina, which does mean that someone who had access to the marina or maybe had a boat on there could have done something and covered it up using their property at the marina. So those are all of the possible theories, and I honestly hate ending a video like this because it just feels so empty and like there's no resolution, and there's like we just don't even have an idea of what happened. But I am very curious to see what you guys have to say in the comments. If you have any information that I forgot to include, make sure to leave it in the comments. I will pin it at the top. That being said, I love you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Bye. In addition to letting me know if I missed anything, you can also look at the information on the screen or in the description to let anyone know if you know anything in regards to this case. If you do know anything, please come forward and share with the Swansea police or family so that we can bring Toppy home together.